Dr. Gerald. Your life as Dr. Rodney Gerald means the Foundation pre-counts body bags whenever you ask for car keys. You were hired as a research assistant specializing in neuroscience, physics, and quantum mechanics. You were smart, enthusiastic, and honestly, fairly normal by Foundation standards. But at some point, staff noticed a pattern. Every single person who rides in a vehicle you are operating dies. Not usually, not statistically often, but every single time with no exceptions. And the methods vary. Most commonly, it is a catastrophic crash. Occasionally, a passenger escapes the vehicle successfully, only to get hit by another vehicle moments later. And in situations where there are somehow no vehicles nearby, reality just improvises. You, meanwhile, survive every single incident. Your career highlights include accidentally turning a school bus full of D-class personnel into a demolition derby, weaponizing a Segway, and answering the theoretical question of whether rollerblades technically count as vehicles. For the record, they do. The Foundation discovered this by allowing you to rollerblade directly into an enemy organization's headquarters at approximately 4,000 kilometers per hour. Let's just say the casualty count was classified. Anyway, your response to questions about these incidents is always the same. The Foundation has really good insurance. And it gets even better, because at the moment, the Foundation is designing a containment vehicle capable of holding SCP-682 long enough for you to drive it somewhere. Real highway through hell energy, if you ask me. So, yeah, you're going places, Gerald, just not safely. Survival rate of your passengers, 0%. Survival rate of whatever you're driving toward, even worse. Dr. Alto Clef. Your name is a chord played on a ukulele, which means every serious SCP briefing involving you has at least a 40% chance of beginning like an indie folk concert. And somehow, that's still one of the least concerning things about you. You see, your name is almost certainly an alias for a man who may have been known as Francis Wojciechowski, Eli Singh, or James Halforth. You're a former Global Occult Coalition operative, specializing in reality benders. You also used to be a former file clerk, a reformed misogynist, and known for wandering minimal security areas with unfurled cinnamon rolls stuck in your nose. And somewhere between all of that, you are possibly the devil. It's true, the file addresses it. Though your response is that you aren't, which would be reassuring if the Foundation didn't also describe you as a pathological liar regarding all non-SCP-related topics. But what makes you genuinely terrifying is that reality shifts don't work on you. Reality warpers rewrite history, alter physics, erase people from existence. And you somehow remain standing there like, damn, that's crazy. So you're anomalously resistant to reality benders, which makes sense, since you spent an entire career hunting them. And when you weren't doing that, you were apparently fathering an anomalous child with a nature goddess. Unfortunately, the GOC's official policy toward anomalies is extremely simple and extremely bullet-shaped, so you got out. And just like that, the SCP Foundation suddenly had the world's most famous reality bender assassin standing in their lobby, asking about healthcare benefits. Now you run training and development, meaning the SCP Foundation looked at one of the most dangerous and suspicious men alive and said, yeah, let's put him in charge of onboarding. And somehow, against all logic, you're extremely good at your job. Survival rate of the Foundation's trust in you, weirdly still above average. Dr. Kondraki. Your life as Dr. Kondraki means the SCP Foundation somehow gave a clearance badge to a man whose first instinct in any emergency is this might be funny. You and Dr. Clef are the Foundation's most infamous veteran duo. Where Clef approaches problems with terrifying precision, you approach them with weaponized improvisation and absolutely no concern for future paperwork. Oh, and you also control a colony of telepathic butterflies linked directly to your mind. Which sounds awesome, right up until people realize the butterflies obey your decisions, and your decisions are usually terrible. Your personal philosophy is that the Foundation's containment inventory represents an underutilized weapons platform. According to you, SCPs should obviously be used as weapons, which you made clear in one of the most famous incidents ever documented. It involved SCP-083D, a fast-moving cannibalistic entity that breached containment and started chasing you through a facility. A reasonable researcher would probably activate emergency lockdowns in this situation. You, meanwhile, looked at SCP-682 and thought, transportation. You then proceeded to get on its back and rode it through the facility at full speed. You kind of got devoured in the process. But apparently, that was all part of the plan. Anyway, the O5 Council reviewed this explanation, and let's just say they were not comforted by it. Many researchers believe you were quietly removed by upper administration shortly afterward. though official records remain suspiciously vague on the topic. The butterflies, meanwhile, are apparently still out there somewhere. Survival rate of SCP-682 after you wrote it? Completely unharmed? Survival rate of your administrative privileges after the report reached the O5 Council? Significantly lower. Dr. Jack Bright. Your life as Dr. Jack Bright began as a normal Foundation career and somehow escalated into immortality, identity theft, and a document long enough to require its own table of contents. But before all of this, you were a promising young researcher in bioengineering and abnormal genetics, and only joined the Foundation because your younger brother TJ got contained. Then came SCP-963, a fancy little amulet with the personality-destroying side effect hidden very deep in the brochure. During a containment breach involving SCP-076, the immortal murder machine with great abs, you got killed while holding the amulet, which normally would have ended your story right there. Unfortunately, the necklace had other plans. A D-class touched it shortly after and woke up with your full personality, your full memories, and absolutely none of his own. And the Foundation's response to this was basically, wow, horrifying. Anyway, can he still come into work Monday? So now, there are protocols in place. Nobody wears SCP-963 for more than 30 days because eventually the host stops being themselves and permanently becomes you. The Foundation discovered this the same way they discover everything, accidentally and with a lot of paperwork. Since then, the list of things you are no longer allowed to do has become genuinely legendary. Gambling, dating coworkers, explosives, most forms of fun, honestly. At one point, you somehow turned 3 straight weeks of tic-tac-toe against SCP-076 into a containment issue. Anyway, after living through dozens of bodies, deaths, and identities, your main long-term goal has become very simple. Finally staying dead. Which, unfortunately for you, is proving difficult. Survival rate of your body? Terrible. Survival rate of your consciousness? Annoyingly excellent. Dr. Everwood. Your life as Dr. Everwood means you are a senior researcher at Site 55 with an immaculate work record, an unresolved burnout, and a body that is now a beetle. You see, one day you went to sleep as a human being with deadlines and performance reviews, and the next, you woke up with a shell, compound eyes, and the realization that your body now operated on entirely different principles. Then, you tried sitting up, but beetles, unfortunately, are not designed for this. So there you were, lying in your box spring, trying to process the situation with your legs doing whatever panicked insect legs do. For some reason, your first thought was not why the hell you woke up as a beetle. It was whether you would be able to consult on your own SCP file, once containment procedures inevitably started happening around you, which, speaking of, happened immediately. Because that's when Dr. Elson knocked. You claimed you were fine, which was not convincing for several reasons, the main one being that you were currently a beetle trying to speak English. More staff arrived, and eventually they barged into the room. What they found was a giant, depressed beetle hiding under a blanket. But here's the thing. Nobody treated you like a monster. Your coworkers stayed. They brought food, humidifiers, blankets, even sat beside your bed feeding you ice cream, while reassuring you that yes, technically, becoming an insect still counted as medical leave. And by the end, you weren't even contained in some horrific cell. You ended up recovering at Wilson's Wildlife Solutions, peacefully sitting in the sun, watching anomalous animals, while slowly realizing that maybe your entire self-worth didn't have to come from work. Survival rate of your to-do list? Catastrophic. Mental health, though? Weirdly improving. Researcher Talerin. Your life as researcher. James Talerin is the reason why it's actually fine to be mid. Because the one time someone noticed you, it rebuilt the entire universe around you. And not in a fun way. Once, you were a completely ordinary, slightly awkward, and kind-hearted Level 3 researcher assigned to SCP-3999. It's a godlike reality-warping entity with exactly one favorite hobby, making you suffer. The entity destroyed and recreated universes repeatedly just to continue torturing you in new ways. And it didn't simply lock you in a room or whatever. Instead, it changed your identity, your memories, your body, even your surroundings. Remember the time you were skinned alive? Or when your jaw got ripped off? And when your loved ones died in front of you? And when, at your absolute lowest point, you were possibly the last consciousness remaining in existence? Meanwhile, Foundation containment procedures started rewriting themselves in real time. The document escalated from monitor Talerin carefully to eliminate everyone he has ever loved. Entire procedures appeared spontaneously. Execute colleagues, poison random personnel, deliver Talerin to enemy groups as a gift basket, and the Foundation just watched it happen. But eventually, you realize something important. The SCP-3999 needed you. Without you, the entity had no focus and no reason to maintain itself. So, after surviving unimaginable horrors for millions of years, you arrived at the Foundation's official recommended containment procedure. Unalive yourself. And it worked. SCP-3999 vanished. The universe continued. And almost nobody remembered you. The last known image connected to the incident is your phone displaying the SCP-3999 file itself, implying that at some point you actually read the article describing your own fate and walked into the room anyway, which honestly might be the bravest thing anyone in the Foundation has ever done. Survival rate of researcher Talerin, 0. Survival rate of literally everyone else, because of you, 100%. Lillian Marley. Your life as Lillian Marley is the story the Foundation hates most, because there was no monster involved. At least not an anomalous one. You joined the Foundation in 1999 after accidentally developing an algorithm connected to anomalous mathematics. You were smart, hardworking, respected, and, unfortunately, noticeable to your supervisor, Dr. Christopher Burns. And Burns was the exact kind of man who should never be given administrative access to anything more advanced than a microwave. At first, the incidents seemed random. During a presentation in 2005, your projector suddenly displayed explicit material in front of your coworkers. Files vanished at critical moments. Emails sent themselves to the wrong people, and programs crashed during important operations. Every incident somehow targeted you specifically. It started to feel like something was doing this to you, and when your superiors suggested you might be anomalous, the Foundation did what they do best. They contained you. What followed was 9 years of completely pointless testing justified through paperwork, strip searches, sensory abuse sessions, isolation, and amnestics administered without authorization. The Ethics Committee finally reviewed the full case years later and realized something everyone should have noticed immediately. The anomaly was not you. It was your boss. Still, Burns retired comfortably before any real consequences caught up with him. You were released, reclassified as non-anomalous, and handed back a life that was 9 years shorter than it should have been. Turns out the most dangerous thing in the building wasn't in a containment cell. It was signing your paychecks. Survival rate of Lillian Marley? Technically 100%. Trust in humanity, though, contained indefinitely. Dr. Gears. Your life as Dr. Gears means you treat nightmare scenarios with the same intensity of someone microwaving leftovers. I'm serious. Somewhere in the building right now, there is a junior researcher asking a senior researcher whether you are, in fact, a human being or just a very convincing anomaly. The senior researcher will redirect that inquiry to you. You will say no, and the conversation will end there, because nobody has ever found a way to disprove it. Anyway, your daily life is basically just walking through Site 17, delivering the worst news imaginable in the exact same tone someone would use to announce a printer malfunction. Containment breach? Understood. Reality collapsing? Not ideal. During one particularly catastrophic testing incident, you sustained internal bleeding and partial blindness, and when asked if you wanted to stop, you calmly requested that the test continue, then walked yourself to the medical ward 30 minutes later under your own power. So yeah, the survival rate of anomalies under your supervision? Extremely high. Survival rate of the normal human expression of emotion? I'm not sure. So there you have it. 8 researchers the Foundation hired, documented extensively, psychologically damaged beyond repair, and somehow still trusted with clearance badges. Honestly, at this point, the SCPs might be safer than the staff.